up, wake up. You've got the power. You've got
my people in the east, yo, you gotta wake up. Midwest, dirty south, yo, you gotta stand up. All my homies in the west, yo, you gotta wake up.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backwards thinking, time for thinking ahead.
Welcome back to the Law Library. So earlier in the first half, we was talking about, I had made corrections about what I said in the previous podcast regarding the legal weights of marijuana that a person can possess. And it went from 5 pounds, which I got off New York State Court website. And then when I went back on there today, earlier, it says up to 3 ounces. So you can't have more than 3 ounces of marijuana. That's the law now. Right, so that's the law now. All right, so we was talking about the intersection between mental health, criminal behavior, our youth, and the gangs and everything. No, you got to swipe it. There we go. Okay, sorry about that, Joe. So we're going to pick back up. And one of the things that we're talking about is putting people first in mental health. So, yes, there's a big difference between mental health and mental illness. And I'm going to read just briefly, y'all, from a journal from the CDC, a writing or post that's on their website, Centers for Disease Control. We already know that they're a credible organization because they're the ones who set down the guidelines along with WHO, World Health Organization, during the COVID-19. When they told you to wear a mask, you wore a mask. When they told you to use hand sanitizer, you used hand sanitizer. They told you to get vaccinated, you did that too. At least most of y'all did. So the source is credible. And what it says is, because the two are used interchangeably, that's mental health and mental illness, warning signs are often overlooked. Mental health and mental illness are not the same thing. Mental illness refers to conditions that affects a person's thinking, feeling, mood, or behavior. So if a person's thinking and their feeling or their mood is affected by something going on in their mind or whatever, there's no guarantee how their behavior is going to come out. Because some people are schizophrenic or could be schizophrenic or display schizophrenic behaviors, which is hearing voices, thinking people are against them. And in the modern times, in the world of youth right now, they have a saying, that's my op, meaning the opposition. So somebody could be on one side of the street at any given moment and feel like the dude across the street is staring at him, not looking at him right, or wearing a different color. And then, boom, lo and behold, we got the Wild Wild West with a shootout in the middle of the street. Jamaica Avenue, Fulton Street, 3rd Avenue in the Bronx, whatever main street in Staten Island, or anywhere in USA, America. So a lot of this, I'm saying, my position is undiagnosed mental health, and I'm going to use the word issues. So my guest, Ava, what do you think about that? Some stuff you wanted to say.
Yes, like we were talking about earlier about the youth and talking about the brain develops at 25. But we must also remember that schizophrenia is triggered about 18, 19.
Oh, really?
And that's usually when most kids start to go off to college. And, the first exam is when an episode occurs.
Okay.
Most parents having to head back to college to pick up these kids and, catastrophe, if these kids are able to pick back up, get medicated, get on the right medication, because that then in itself is another whole issue of finding the right medication for these kids to function and to function in society with. Now, when you add that with marijuana, marijuana also is one of the triggers for schizophrenia.
The gateway drug, marijuana.
Yeah, it's a trigger
for
schizophrenia. So think about like you said, the kid, the young person who went in McDonald's and
Killed
had-
somebody by
killed
a
somebody.
cold French fry.
Right. And that was might have been their first episode of schizophrenia. The paranoia, seeing things, hearing things, you know. All these are factors. And the drugs they're using now, they're not pure.
Okay, we know a lot of chemical additives to make the weed grow faster, stronger,
Correct.
higher levels of THC and all that. Okay,
Right. And,
okay.
and the drug dealer who's adding what he needs to add for you to come back to buy more, right? All these factors.
Nowadays, fentanyl, they putting fentanyl in marijuana. Ain't that
Correct.
something? Okay.
So you have young person, 17, 16, 17, who decides they're going to smoke some weed. It might be that mental illness might be in the family.
Okay.
Not known.
Oh, question. So you saying might be in the family, is that equivalent to saying that mental illness is
Genetic.
genetic and inheritable?
Yes.
Wow.
So if the grandfather didn't know he
Yeah.
had some form of mental illness.
Undiagnosed.
Yes, because remember,
Okay.
in our community, we usually like to say stuff like, "Oh, that's how Tom is," and we know Tom. He's
That's crazy Uncle
Tom.
Eddie over
Yes.
there howling at the moon.
Correct.
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we call
Don't
it,
pay him no
right,
mind.
We call it everything other than
What it actually is.
correct.
I think that's due to lack of education on that subject.
Correct.
Okay.
And awareness, education, and awareness, right? And these are one of the things that is lacking in our community. And
Right.
I think we had one of the big things that we did a couple of years ago. We had, I think, what's called one of the things that came out of Thrive NYC was mental health first aid.
Mental health who?
First aid.
Oh, mental health first aid, right.
Yes.
Yeah, I have
a lot
that
of
book.
the community
Yeah.
members were trained and how
I took that training.
how to see and understand what mental health is and how
Right.
to understand if somebody's going through stuff.
Okay.
Because a lot of the times we have depression and we don't understand what depression is, and we consider people as lazy. Kids are
Or
kids-
isolating. They isolate because they don't.
kids
really
go
wanna
through
be there.
depression.
Okay.
We have a lot of kids who are depressed,
I go to depression every time I go to the bank,
right?
and that card say negative $40.
So we keep saying, we say stuff like, what, you don't have no bills to pay, you don't have no rent, why you can't be depressed? But they are depressed.
Right.
They're staying, but we see it as oh, he's not going outside, so at least I know where he is, he's in his room. But that's not a good sign either.
That's what I was going to ask you. Can you describe for the audience one or two signs of depression or symptoms?
Staying in the room, not wanting to socialize.
So that's isolation. Okay.
Not wanting to do things with the family. It could also show as aggression towards family members, aggressive to teachers, acting out,
Okay.
and that can go as 6 years old, acting out.
And you've actually worked with these people.
I worked with kids. I worked in an environment where our focus was children's mental health, and that's all we dealt with is children's mental health. We dealt from kids from 6 years old up to 18.
Wow, 6 years old.
Yes, with mental health. As I said, it looks differently in children,
Okay.
and that can be taking his feces and smearing it on the walls.
Okay.
Urinating on themselves. Things that are out of the norm.
Okay.
But out of the norm for us, but it might not be out of the norm for the family.
It ain't out of the norm for me because I know a lot of grown people urinate on themselves right after that third or fourth shot of Hennessy.
Right? So when we talk
Yeah.
about kids, we got to look at
Okay.
when we're looking to get kids help. I think we have to start from as little as kindergarten.
That's if they exhibit behaviors
Yes.
that need to be attention paid to.
Yes, we got to start addressing these behaviors from that age, and monitoring it. I'm not saying that we open ourselves because we open ourselves to the public's eye or to the government or to people invading our space because we are so untrusting as community people or in our black and brown communities as people coming in there and coming into our communities and doing things that are not
Doing harm to us.
truth bearing.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
You know, it's almost like we have to band together as a community. We need psychiatrists that look like us.
I was getting ready.
We need
Bingo,
therapists that
bingo.
look like us.
Right.
We are lacking, very much lacking with male therapists, young male counselors. We need folks that look like us that understand our trauma and understand why we behave like this, why we speak like this, why our voices are raised, why I always think that people always think that I'm an angry black woman, and just because I raise my voice, or why does as soon as a man step up, they think he wants to fight. No, we need folks that understand where we have come from and where we are today, because if they understood our trauma, they would understand why we are who we are
Okay.
and why we behave the way we behave.
Okay. So let me go back. What I need you to do as a professional is explain to the people in the audience what is trauma. How would you describe it in the most common terms? A bad experience in the past,
Anything
change your
that
course
is
of
not-
thinking,
yes, that is
a bad experience.
happened to us. Because trauma, there's so many layers of trauma. Different
I
courses
agree.
trauma. There's, trauma.
Generational trauma.
There's trauma that, let me get give you a better understanding
Okay.
from a better perspective, because I don't want anybody to bite my head, because
No, we
although
all.
we're helping,
This is a
people
learning
still,
process.
right?
Yeah.
People still, will still come at you. So,
The other week, I pulled out that iPhone and looked up that marijuana law, and it said 5 pounds. I was like, "What?" And remember, it's not
So-
5 pounds, just
so when
3
we
ounces.
talk
Go
about
ahead.
trauma,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, rape, natural disaster. So after the event has happened, we go into shock, denial, but that is short term. It's when it becomes a long term reaction. So we get into flashbacks, and that goes into a different type of trauma. That goes into PTSD, all these variations of trauma. So, if you're not understanding who I am or where I have come from, how are you going to help me?
I think that's what therapy is for.
Yeah, but if you yes, but if you are not a black woman or a black man to understand my trauma,
Right,
and my
right.
trauma based, and my redlining and all these other factors that
Affect you.
affect me,
And then affect your behavior.
Yeah, how are you going to
Understand.
understand? Yes, you're going to help me, and I might be in therapy for years, but I still don't get any help. And yes, I might get help, but have you really understood me, or have I reached a point where I've understood me?
So,
Because I need to understand me.
right, to know
'Cause
what's
to
going
go,
on.
To go through therapy, yes, you've answered it, but have I understood me? Because I need to understand me to move to the level where I can function for me. Not
Within
even
the
in
society. Yeah, right. Go
You
ahead.
know, I might function in the society. I might do everything the society wants. I might do everything, but am I functioning for me? I might be just getting up, getting dressed and going to work, working and coming back home, going to a party with my friends, but for me, I'm still empty. I'm still hollow.
Okay. Wow. So okay. So we know
It's
trauma
deep.
is yeah, it's deep. So we know trauma is an event that harmed us. Could have been mental, could have been physical, could have been both, a mixture. You mentioned rape. Men get raped in prison. Women get raped in prison. Women get raped on the street. Those are clearly traumatic events. Car accidents, witnessing certain crimes, especially murder. You know, I remember growing up as a child. I was at a friend's house and their father was having a card game, and basically, the only thing I really remembered was, "You cheat, you cheating, you cheating, you cheating, motherfucker! I kill you, I kill you." And then we heard a loud pop. Next thing we know, dude laying on the floor with his brains leaking out. And after a while, in my life, I became desensitized to shit like that. You know, from a young age. But these things are traumatic. A car accident, especially a car accident where a loved one is lost, and you in the same vehicle. I think then part of that, a branch of that is called survivor's remorse. That's some real stuff right there. So one thing is clear, that a traumatic event affects people's mental health and could lead into mental illness, because you said the onset of a 16-year-old child or 18-year-old, whatever that age group was, that the smoking of marijuana can lead to schizophrenic behavior. Now, everybody might not know this, but one of the symptoms of schizophrenia is lack of trust and paranoia. Now, those are the same things that common people should recognize from the use of marijuana. The first thing you hear people say after they smoke a blunt or something, "Yo, who the fuck is that at the window?" You on the 10th floor, my dude. There's nobody at the window. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be jovial about it, but this is some real stuff. You know, and it could happen on the first floor. The dude on the street, he got a gun in his pocket or whatever, and he's like, "Why this motherfucker across the street keep staring at me? He ain't got no training or nothing with this weapon." And then he just pull out and start busting it. Then you have Miss Jones, that's 80, 90 years old, and got hit. The newborn baby, Keisha, 9 months old, sitting in the car and got hit by a stray bullet. You know what I'm saying? So all this interacts, and the bad part about it is that our community in this day and time, halfway past the mark of 2020, heading to 2023, is accepting this behavior. We have become desensitized because we hear about it all the time. I'm gonna tell you something. When I heard about the killing of George Floyd, I said, I'm done with the news.
I don't
Because it's
listen to the
nothing
music.
never good.
I don't listen to the music.
And that situation, I'm not digging it back up, that was the wrong term. I'm not bringing it back up, but that right there turned me off until I started doing this, because now I got to keep abreast of it. Me and my brother talk about articles we read, specifically police gunning down young black youth. The Breonna Taylor issue just came back up within the last 30 to 45 days, where they made some arrests for some of them officers that fudged the paperwork, committed fraud with the paperwork. So it's around us all the time. We live, we eat, and we breathe traumatic events. We live, we eat, we breathe criminal activity in our neighborhoods. And only thing it's doing is furthering the cycle of the harm to our people.
Correct.
You dig? So, having said that, one of the questions was that I had for you, as your personal opinion, is what do you think about when the child acts up in school, the black and brown child acts up in school, right? and it's suggested that they go see the psychiatrist at the school, and then the psychiatrist suggests we medicate that child. How you feel about that?
There's alternatives to medication. We know there's
Holistic?
homeopathic medication,
Homeopathic. Okay.
and we also know there's holistic, right?
Holistic, right. That's what I was saying.
So we have to understand, first thing, the parent needs to be educated
Okay.
on what the disorder is that the child has.
Okay.
Um,
The diagnosis.
right.
Okay.
So you diagnosed my child with ADHD under one diagnosis?
I don't know
one
because
visit?
I think it goes
No.
by what they say.
But that's what I'm saying.
During
Under
the
one
course?
visit, if you because
Oh, that was happening in the schools.
right
On
under
a
one
regular
visit,
basis. Right.
under one visit. So I'm saying
Okay.
to the parent, if you are not comfortable with that one diagnosis or that one, seek another one.
Right. As you would do with a physical ailment diagnosis.
And this is why I'm trying to explain. Your mental health is just as important as your
Physical health. Correct.
Right? So
Right.
if you're not comfortable with the diagnosis you received, seek another one.
If it gets to that point, right.
You know, understand what medication is and what the long-term effects of that medication is. Because mental illness with medication, like physical illness, it's hard to stop taking that medication. A diabetic cannot just stop taking their insulin.
Insulin. Not at all. Not unless they're
Right.
ready to die.
So a schizophrenic cannot just stop taking their medication.
But now, see,
So you can work your way into other things that you don't have to take that medication. Because you can exercise and you can go the holistic route of doing other things. But you got to know yourself and know what works for you. Everybody's different. Everybody has to do things differently. But you have to come to a level of understanding you and understanding what works for you before you jump off the bandwagon and say, I'm going to stop taking my medication.
having said that, I kind of got a similar agreements with that, but I think the reality of that is that we know and understand a diabetic cannot stop taking his insulin without organs failing in his body and eventually leading to death. And there's no one determination of the time period
But-
that's going to happen.
But they can do other things that they don't have to take as much insulin as they was taking before, because they can go on their exercise, they can monitor their diet. So if they were taking 300 milligrams of insulin, and they're doing all the things that they need to do, diet, exercise, they might go down to 20 milligrams.
Okay. Well, I
understand?
thank you for coming. I'm not cutting you off right now, but our time is a little bit limited. And phones did not work properly. I apologize for that. We're going to get that fixed too. Like I said, this like and subscribe. Even if you don't like me, like and subscribe. If you don't like my jokes, like and subscribe. Anyway, tell me that. Leave it in the comment box. But we do have a person that came through, of Mrs. Toma. So the question is, I have a question. What do you believe that we could do as far as making mental health issues more acceptable in our community?
Looking for a daycare for your little one in Queens, New York? We're opening every little step too. We offer the best caregivers, COVID-safe guidelines. We've been in business for many years and now have a bigger location located on Woodhaven Boulevard. Every little step too. Check out our new website. Do you need childcare? Call today to get your child enrolled. Feel good knowing your kids are safe with us. Kids are our future leaders. Together we can change the world.